Here we go with another Stimmy Package ZHP video. As people say, bad luck comes in threes, and this is what happened this time. I'm going to be doing the tie rod assemblies and the control arm bushings with this car. When I was testing it, just giving this a kick, there's a lot of play in this bushing particularly. So that definitely needs to be done, and the last time I tried to adjust the alignment, the tie rods were pretty much seized. To make the alignment guy pretty happy, we're going to be doing that. When I got my package from Rock Auto, we got the first issue. Good TRW parts, OES. However, this one's a left-hand one, JRA 330. This one is supposed to be the right-hand one, JRA 331. However, when I opened this guy up, it had a left-sided tie rod end. So that's no good. These are the old tie rod ends I have that came out of the old steering rack that is leaking, which is somewhere over there. But can't do the passenger side because I don't have a right tie rod end. Thanks, Rock Auto. Either way, I was going to push forward, just get the driver's side done. However, I smelled coolant when I fired this thing up and I shut it off in the garage. Okay, no problem. Smell it from this side, so not this side, so there's nothing from the expansion tank going on, hopefully. And hopefully it's not anything on the side of the block. Go inside the car, pull the hood lever, it's super loose, and hood isn't opening. Can't even look under the hood. I don't really know what else to do, but we're gonna Google up some fixes on how to figure out how to open this. So what I have done so far is pop this handle off just to make sure that this internal one hasn't broken. I see the cable and it's fully latched here. I'm hoping it's this junction block here that has just come apart, so I will just zip tie it together and hope that it doesn't come off again. Otherwise, it's one of these latches that have broken. Probably this one, because this was the rustier one. Either way, not good, because I have to figure out how to take this off without destroying this, because I don't want to pay for another kidney grill on this thing. Alright, so before we get too far, I took off the underbelly, vacuumed everything out, but this, you can possibly see on the camera, there is a slight blue tint here on the passenger side of the vehicle, so it's definitely been losing coolant. I'm going to go to AutoZone or Advance, grab one of their pressure testers and see exactly where it's leaking from, but I believe it's leaking out of that passenger end tank of the radiator. As you can see, I also was able to get the hood open. Pretty kind of annoying job, so I didn't know how long it was going to take, so I just didn't film me messing it up the entire way. But basically, this is all, I ripped it off, so all the clips broke. Alright, I'm going to need a new kidney grill. And then next up, I tried to do this as invasively, or less invasively as possible. So, took some cutters and just cut enough of the plastic off so I can see the cable going to the passenger one, and then also see what's going on in here. I took the long reach pliers and just tugged at the cable. That unlocked the passenger side. And then I took the screwdriver and I just stuffed it in here. So if you look at the parts diagrams or the pictures of the hood assembly, and then you watch some videos online, it goes, you have like the thing, it's like this, and it pulls this way when you pull the cable, and then you have this little mechanism, what my fist is, right next to the side of the hood latch. That's the best I can explain it. What I did was stick a screwdriver in between this piece, and then I just moved the screwdriver to the right when you're facing the vehicle, moved it this way, and doing it a couple times, getting it at the right angle, it popped this latch open. So that's all I got for you all. Hood latch is open, but besides that, we're going to get started on the control arm bushings and one side of the tie rods. there we have it. You got the new tie rods in, new control arm bushings in. And I'm starting to collect the old parts. So these brackets I'm going to keep. So that means I'm going to keep these bushings too, and then at some point I'm going to press them out when I need them again. And then you could also see that I had to cut the tie rod assemblies apart just to get the boots and reuse those. None of these things were loose, but these things were definitely seized. So made it nice for the alignment guy, got fresh parts, so they should be good for a couple thousand more miles of track duty. And now the next thing I'm going to do is get the coolant drain and prep it for a radiator swap. While I'm doing that, I'm going to also be able to have better access to these hood latches. So I'm going to pull these guys out, and I'm going to figure out what to do with the hood pins, which we'll see pretty soon. Alright, so got everything pulled out. Thought I'd be slick and be able to leave the expansion tank in there while I pulled the radiator out. Couldn't do it. And this is the guy that was leaking. You can see a little bit of a trail right here. So basically when I pressurized it was creeping out of this intake, which is actually the driver's side, but because of the angle of the driveway, it would pool up onto the passenger side, which made me think that that side was bad. Either way, this thing is pretty dang old, because when we look at this side, I don't know how it got this dirty. So we're going to do some cleanup and button everything back up. Alright, so with the radiator buttoned up, we're going to get to our second to last thing, which would be the hood pins. First thing I did was take these OEM hood latches out and I gutted them. That left me with this nice steel plate that I can use for centering these hood pins. They got a nice little taper onto them, so it's self-centering, and then if I put a dab of Loctite on the bottom and then at the top, it should be pretty good. It's not going to move. These are the style that I'm going with, so these are going to be the push button ones. I didn't really want to deal with the arrow catches because those are kind of harder to cut out and it requires a lot more cutting. Going back to the car, so obviously I have those OEM plates, so that's going to bolt in here pretty easily. But if we look at the hood side of things, you can see that that's where the OEM hood springs went, and through that little square you can hopefully see that there is a grease mark from where I located this pin. So I'm going to do the same to this piece, and then I'll be able to mark my center point so I can drill through the hood. There you have it. Alright, so there you go. Big moves. Some two dumb looking buttons on the hood. Here's a close-up. I gotta do a lot of touch-up paint on this stuff just so the hood doesn't rust. I had a really hard time, as you can see, but I didn't really mar it up too bad, and this is the underside. The top side, really easy to do because it's a lot thinner. This bottom part, 3 layers, and you can't get a pilot hole in there because there's that little square that these pins were just touching. So I knew I had to drill a bigger hole through, and then since I was drilling a bigger hole anyways, I needed to make it big enough for this bottom locking collar. I've adjusted the height well enough so that it's sitting on the hood bump stops and this thing clips in fully. So it might take a little bit more messing around just to get it to line up a little bit better, but right now it looks fine. So I'm keeping this latch. I was able to salvage the other kidney grill. I only broke one clip, so I glued that back on and it should be good to go. We will get these panels back on, and then we are good to go. there we go. So the hood pins are in, everything's Loctited the right way, so none of this should loosen up, but I'm going to let everything cure before I keep on using these latches. We are on to the final step of this project, which is going to be tackling some of the rear suspension. While off camera, you saw me throw some coolant in, but I also did the transmission fluid and the differential fluid. And now we're going to be doing the rear ball joints, both the upper and the lower on this car. So when I took out the old stuff on the passenger side, this top one was ever so slightly loose. You can kind of feel it when you're holding it with both hands and messing around with it. And then also this bottom one, I don't know how the focus is going to look, but the bushing is pretty ugly looking. So both of these pieces are upgraded to ball joints, or at least one of them is upgraded to a ball joint. I also did the rear trailing arm bushing limiter, so that is also something that's going on. So let's get this building started. Yep, so this one also has a little bit of fore and aft play in the ball cup, so that's why we're replacing these guys. And here we have it. Car is completely buttoned up. Coolant is bled. And it's running at operating temp. So the front belly pant's still off just because I'm making sure there are absolutely no leaks. I did have to do a last minute replacement of this coolant temp sensor. So the sensor's all good, but this O-ring is just too bad. And for about 12 bucks from Advance, I can get an entire sensor, so that's what we're running with. The rear end is done, so the 4 bushings in the back plus rear trailing arm limiters are in. New tie rods, new control arm bushings, so everything that needs adjustment on this car, it's good. We can adjust it. So hood's in, and we got a nice running E46 ZHP ready for an alignment and some snow tires. Thank you all for watching. This was a long weekend, and hopefully you enjoyed it just as much as I did.